Well, will you look what I found? It's a little plaque that I got when I was a kid. You see, when I was a kid, or a teenager, better yet, because this is from high school. I'm not going to show you the school, but when I was in high school, you know, I had fun. I played with my friends. I remember I drew in classes. I studied quite a bit. I was in honor classes. I was in honors English, and by English, I mean literature, not writing, not learning English. I mean writing. Okay? Kind of like here you have it in literature, right? So I was in honors. I was going to be the speaker in a pinning ceremony. It was a great time. I loved my high school, and it was just a great time for me. I played with my friends. I joked around. I remember I ate all the time at breakfast at school. I played with my friends actually some card games at school every morning. But yeah, it was a fun time. So what I just told you, if you guys notice, I'm gonna ask you a question first to see if you noticed. Was I talking in past, present, or future? If you said past, you are correct. What I was just talking about was in past. Now, to talk in past, you need two key things. If you guys remember, simple present with the verb to be will be I am in high school. This is for you. This is a sentence that actually applies to you. For my students that are currently in high school, if it's university, well, I'm in university, right? But what about how can we change this to past? How do we make this into past? Why? Well, maybe we're not in high school anymore, you know? We're not studying anymore. We're working. We're probably a teacher or a doctor or a carpenter or a janitor, whatever. Well, with that one, we're going to start using simple past. Now, simple past is pretty simple. Like it says in the name. You're going to all you're going to do is change the M for was. And there you go. I was in high school. Now, as you guys can see, this was what I said in the beginning, right? In the beginning, I said, when I was in high school. You see? We're using was, and that way we're talking about the past. Okay? Now, of course, was is not the only thing we're going to use. Okay? Was is not the only thing. As you know, the verbs to be are am, is, are, or am is are, whatever you want. But this is usually for present, right? Or for other ones. Well, we're just going to put to be because it can be used for present, future, whatever. So, to be. Well, in order to make that in past, we're going to use was and were. So, when you were going to use am is are, cuando lo usaban, now you're going to use was and were. Now, what's the difference? Well, it's pretty simple. Was is usually singular. Were is plural. Okay? Singular, plural. Let's put an example. Okay? Pretty much if you're going to use excuse me. I, he, she, it, it's going to be was. If you're going to use you, we, and they, it's going to be were. Now, remember, students, yes, you can be usually used for one person, right? For example, you are happy, you are this, your sister. Well, your sister's different, but you is usually used for one person. But remember that in English, you can also be used to talk to an entire group. For example, if I'm going to ask you a question to a group, si le hago una pregunta al grupo, I'm going to use you. Okay? So keep that in mind. That's why it's here. So, I, he, she, it, us, you, we, and they were. It is a pretty simple thing. Alright, why don't we continue? Alright. So, as you can see, let's put a few examples, okay? Let's use, for example, David was a teacher. Here, when we say David was a teacher, is he still a teacher? Not really. If we say David was a teacher when he was young, we're pretty much insinuating that he's not a teacher anymore. He was, but not anymore. It's kind of like, now that is using was. And notice, we're using was because we're using the name David. Now, what if we use something different? Like, for example, Shannon and Cynthia. What are we going to use? Was or were? If you said were, you are correct. Shannon and Cynthia were because we're talking about two people. Shannon and Cynthia, two people. Shannon and Cynthia were, let's see, let's use were at the party. They were at the party. Okay? The party is the party still going on? No. The party is over. It's finished. Okay? So as you guys can see, the structure is pretty simple. We have subject plus was and were plus complement. Okay? That is first using was and were. And remember, it is used the same way as is. Okay? It's used for jobs, emotions, age, and anything relating to that. Remember, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Now, remember, the biggest problem that people usually have when they're learning a language is with the past tense. And we're going to go with that for a reason. But before we continue to that reason, let's see how we're going to write a question. Now, questions with was and were are pretty simple. Okay, for example, if I say I was a teacher. Sorry, I'm not that creative right now. No, let's change it. Let's say not I. Let's use Katie. Right? Let's use Katie. Nah, I still don't like it. I don't know why I'm very, very special with the names right now, but oh well. You know what? Let's use Sarah. Okay? Sarah was a teacher. Now, how are we going to make this into a sentence? Well, it's the same way as the verb to be. You're going to put this before the sentence. So, it was going to be, was Sarah a teacher? I'm very distracted right now because I don't know if the light's going to go out in my house. So, was Sarah a teacher? And you answer, yes, she was. No, she wasn't. Of course, like I've told you before, you guys are advanced. You guys should be able to add a little bit more. For example, was Sarah a teacher? Yes, she was a teacher. And she loved being a teacher. Or, no, she wasn't. She was a doctor. Or something like that. Okay? And it's the same structure with were. Okay. So that is was and were. Not that hard, right? Now let's go to part 2. Part 2, we're just going to be talking about normal, simple, past. Now, normal simple past isn't hard. Where you guys tend to do the mistaken is changing the verb to past tense. Okay, let's put an example. Now, if you guys remember, a normal sentence is I play soccer. Right? This is simple present. This is simple present. So, to change this to past tense, we're going to make it into simple. Better yet, let's put it in this color. Simple past. All we have to do to change it to past is change the verb. That's all. And since play is regular, all we're going to add is I played soccer. Now, please notice the pronunciation because this is where some people make a mistake. Notice the ed. You pronounce it played, not played. Played. No, that is wrong. You pronounce it played. Played. That's it. Played. Okay? So, please remember that. It's the same thing with other words. So, now, remember, there are other verbs that are a little bit more complicated. Some verbs, you have to use, well, the past form because they change. For example, eat. Right? And in past would be ate. So it changes. It changes when it goes to past. And you would write something, for example, I ate breakfast. I ate breakfast. You see? And that would be simple past. It's not that hard, right? Usually the hardest thing with simple past are with the irregular verbs. But before I get into that, let's check out a few things. Let's see the questions. Now, if you guys remember, let me use this instead. If you guys remember, for simple present, we used do and does. Right? We use that do and does for questions and negative. For example, I don't like sushi. Or, do you like sushi? Right? Notice we use do and don't. And remember, does is used when it's she, he, it. We use does. Okay? Now, for simple past, we're not going to use do or does. We're going to use did. Okay? We're going to use did. And did is pretty simple. We're going to be using, for example, I did, let's see, I did, let's put sentence, I did eat Or better yet, my bad. It's supposed to be, even though that's correct, it's supposed to be in negative. I didn't go to school. You could put it in positive, but in positive you're just putting emphasis that is something that you did do. Now, I didn't go to school. Okay? I didn't go to school. You see, we're using didn't. Now, notice another strange thing. What else do you notice that's different? If you mentioned the verb, you're correct. Because the verb is not in past, right? Go is irregular. So, of course, the past of go is went. Right? Past. So, why didn't it go to went? Why didn't we say I didn't went to school? Because we're using did. Did is doing all the work. The moment you use did, el momento que usen did, ya están mencionando que están hablando en pasado. You're mentioning that you're talking in past. So you don't have to add another past word. You don't. Because did does the work for you. Now, let's continue on with the question. Did you... What are we going to put? Go or went? Go or went? If you said go, you're correct. Did you go to school? Again, the reason, la razón, is because did ya está mencionando el pasado. Okay? Did is already talking about past. No tenemos que poner pasado otra vez. Think about like did, right, is doing all the work. Está haciendo todo el trabajo. Y el verbo puede descansar. Okay? So that is how you do a sentence in negative and a questions. Okay? Can you see in the camera? I hope so. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to talk about are irregular verbs. Irregular verbs are the verbs that, for example, they change. We have eat. That changes to ate when it's in past. Okay? Past. Another one is swim. Changes to swam. Sing. Sang. Let's see. What else? We also have run, which changes to ran. Go. Went. Oops. Went. Okay? These are irregular verbs. They change. As you can see, each one had something that changed. Regular verbs are different. They're easier. Regular, once again, regular verbs, all you have to do is just add ed. For example, play is played. Talk, talked. Notice the pronunciation again, not talked, it's talked. Talked. Alright, talked. Played, talked. Now, start does end with a T, so this one it's okay. Started. We also have study. Now, study is different. Because it ends with a Y, you're going to do studied. Okay? So these are the irregular verbs and regular verbs. What I'm going to want you to do with your notes, I want you to add 10 irregular verbs to your notes. Okay? 10 irregular verbs to your notes. Or try to learn 10 new irregular verbs. You can either look them up online, I don't care. But try to learn 10 irregular verbs and learn them, okay? But yep, that's everything we were going to see today. But this is how you write in past. Now, just to finish this up, I'm going to give you some keywords. What do I mean by keywords is how are you going to write in past? Well, writing in past is pretty simple. You can use words, for example, like yesterday. See? Yesterday. How? I played soccer yesterday. Or you can even put in the beginning. Yesterday, I played soccer. Just like this, you can also use last week, last month, 2 years ago, right? Things like that. I'll give you more tips tomorrow, but other than that, this is everything that was going to be today. So remember, this is what you're going to be using to write in past. Now be careful because past tense tends to be where everyone tends to complicate things, usually with the verb. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments or again during the chat at school if you are currently in high school with me. All right, so that's it for today. Don't forget to turn in your notes. Enjoy your day. Don't drink and drive. And also, please do not pass out due from exhaustion. And that's it.